Alison Cooper.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I chose a grid square with an island in it where some roads meet, and I just thought it was interesting to see who might be on that island. So this is, I think my grid square, it says 23F2 in the book. There we are. Okay, this is called Urban Castaway. 1704, the Juan Fernandez Archipelago. What did Selkirk say, sir? He wants to stay. Stay, sir. He wants to be left here. Left here on the island? Alone? Is he touched by the sun? I don't know, but I'm minded to leave him. He's a troublemaker. Sir, I must tell you, he's told the crew the ship isn't worthy, says it won't make it to Bonaventura. He says many things. If he wants to stay here, then so be it. And so his captain left him with a knife, some water, a tinderbox. Alexander Selkirk, a castaway, the castaway, Daniel Defoe's Crusoe. Alas, lamented Edgar Allan Poe in 1836, the days of desolate islands are no more. There's not a square inch of new ground for any future Selkirk. But Poe was wrong. In 2016, on the outskirts of Guildford, Mike jumped ship, marooned himself, with a knife and a plastic water carrier, a bag of seed potatoes, an air rifle, a tent, a stove, a sleeping bag, and a small silver key, which he wore on a chain around his neck. He didn't sail to his solitude. In the warm darkness of an August night, he drove there, abandoning his ex-wife's VW Polo in the Surrey Advertiser car park. Carrying a rucksack, he sprinted across the Woking Road, down the embankment, and dived through a hedge. Mike's Island was flanked by the A3 to the south, the River Way to the north, and the Woking Road to the east. The A3 slip road curved like a tarmac moat around an oval of woodland, 100 metres by 50 metres, a paradise of oaks, ashes, laurels, and 2 apple trees close to the road's edge. Quite the pleasantest spot he could have imagined. In the northeast corner, a pylon loomed like an angry god straddling the trees, holding aloft crackling cables, casting its shadow and a menacing hum across his Eden. Over the following weeks and months, right through the winter, the castaway lived on potatoes and pigeon, blackbird and worms, leaf mould soup. He collected water from the Wey at 3 a.m, and if he was lucky, there was fresh roadkill on his return home across the deserted slip road. He was content away from the acerbic lawyers, the strident in-laws. Yes, she had the house and the business account, but none of them knew about the safe deposit box. He fingered the chain at his neck and gazed across the bruised western horizon. To the east, a sharpening wind hauled a swollen bank of purple cloud. A distant yellow flicker sent a chill trickling across his shoulders. Mike packed up the stove and hauled the ground sheet into the tent. As the first fat raindrops fell, a raging boom exploded across the sky, rolling above him and around him. 2 bolts ripped across the heavens in white-hot zigzags, cracking and bursting onto the hilltops beyond. The thunder punched through the air again, tumbling off to the southeast, then a pause. A flash overhead held the over-brightened earth for more than an instant before the explosion. Mike froze. His eyes found the gap in the tent zip, and he watched in horror as the pylon's flashing tentacles whipped and writhed in the wind, crashing heavily to the ground just 50 yards away. The metal giant seemed ready to uproot at any moment. Mike lunged for his rucksack, his torch, his knife. He heard the severed cables fizzing and hissing. Sparks stung the darkness. A tang of hot burnt metal slid onto his palate. Outside, the sky glow of Guildford was snuffed out. He scrambled out of the tent, dragging his open rucksack, and stumbled away from his sodden paradise. Eden ended in a hawthorn bush. Mike plunged through the knotted, spiny branches that tore at his hair and skin, snagging and snapping the chain around his neck. He blundered through thorns, leaves, cobwebs, dust, air, stale engine fumes, damp tarmac. The dark hole of the unlit A3 yawned before him, empty except for a pair of watery headlights in the distance. His torchlight burst across the carriageway, illuminating billions of silver rain flecks. Mike aimed the beam down the darkened carriageway and stepped into the inside lane. Behind the hedge, another explosion rocked Eden. A lorry navigated toward him and slowed to a screeching halt. Mike stood in the road, waving his torch. The passenger door opened and the driver's mate leaned out. "You're right, Chief." "Can you take me?" Mike gasped. He saw the silhouetted driver nod. "Where to, mate?" "I don't care." The driver's mate shifted across and Mike offered up his rucksack. An arm reached down to seize it. "Welcome aboard," the driver murmured. Mike hauled himself into the cab and slammed the door shut. The engine revved and they rolled forward. The indicator winked left and the lorry turned slowly up onto the Woking road. "From Guildford," wrote Daniel Defoe during his 1725 tour of Great Britain, "there lies a crossroad, as it may be called, not frequented by the ordinary passengers to London, though 'tis by some reckoned the nearest way, and is without question much the pleasanter road, if not the pleasantest in this part of England."
I should say we are clapping mutedly, so it sounds like there isn't applause, but there is. We just have our cameras muted.
I could see you clapping. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent.